Hi there, everyone. This is Raven again, and I'm sitting here at the Red Walk Buffet at 35th. It's at 35th Street in Thomas. Um, since I was down in this part of town, I just swung around to come get lunch. Okay, so if you watch the video on the new Lyft hub, you will know that I had an issue I was going down there for, and I was declined the opportunity to record the conversation for education for other drivers. So the reason that I went down there is because last night at about 10:30, when I'm out working on my shift, I got a notice in my app saying that I've been flagged for safety. Okay. So I'm like, what's this BS? And stuff like that really freaks me out. I take it very personally. Not to mention the fact that this is my job. This is how I make my living. And I felt threatened. And I needed to know why. And there was no way to contact them. And when I clicked on the button for Learn More, I was taken to a page that said this page does not exist. Now, just for the record, when I was down at the hub today and I showed him that, it did go to the help page, the regular old help page that's been on the app forever. So, anyway, so when that happened last night, I figured, all right, if this is, who knows what this is? It shouldn't be here. Why am I subject to it? There's no way to know what's real and what's not. If it's real, well, let me see what they're sending me in my email. Sure enough, there was an email marked 9:50 p.m. that I've been flagged for safety issues. And I'll tell you what the email said real quick. Sorry, I was not prepared. I'm sitting in a restaurant, and I really hate this kid. There's no parent anywhere in sight, and she's sitting here eating from the ice cream. Oh, wow. Man, I hate people that let their kids run around restaurants. Okay. Alright. The title is Drive More Safely, Please. You've been flagged for safety. It looks like you've been getting 3-star lower ratings because from passengers lately because of safety concerns. Remember, giving your passengers a safe ride means you're more likely to get tipped, and your passengers will want to choose Lyft again, bringing you more rides. By giving safe rides, you make passengers happy and you help the Lyft community run smoothly. Happy passengers means they'll keep coming back to Lyft, bringing you more rides. I'm like, what the fuck? Why am I being flagged for safety? I have a 4.9 rating. And I go and I check my rating again, and sure enough, it's 4.9. And I'm like, well, if I am getting 3 stars, why do I still have a 4.9 rating? This is bullshit. And why are they hassling me with this? What kind of head game is this? And that's basically what I said to the guy. And he's like, yeah, well, okay, let me check this out. He said, well, it looks like this was just a heads up that you actually got a 2 rating last night and a 1 rating the night before, and this is just, we're giving you a head up. And I'm like, no, that don't fly. If there's a problem, it needs to be addressed. And it does not help me, Lyft, or the passenger not to clarify what the problem is so that I can resolve it. Which, of course, the Lyft representative agrees with this. Like, you can't be sending out false notices to me on my shift while I'm working. First of all, because it's false. Second of all, because it causes a distraction. It's not an appropriate time to address this during my shift unless it's a real problem. And I did something seriously that endangered somebody. Right? Okay. So, we also talked about the lack of ease of communication and user unfriendliness of the app when it comes to communicating with Lyft, because they have all these menus. And what he said was, yeah, there's ways to communicate on some of the menus, behind some of the menus. And I'm like, no. This needs to be way simplified so that drivers actually can communicate with you. And I addressed the issues with cancellation fees. When they tell you, no, you're not eligible for a cancellation fee on this, I said, look, you don't know. Lyft does not know what's really going on out there. Tell me one person in corporate that has driven for Lyft for more than 2 weeks just to check it out. I've been doing this 30 years. I've seen everything in the book. The kind of shit that happens to a lot of drivers out here doesn't happen to me because I've been there, done that. Like driver scams. Passenger scams. Who's scamming on drivers? Yeah, they're out there. But if you're smart and you know what to look for, you know how to make sure it doesn't happen. And, I don't know, maybe I'm being unfair because of my years of experience. But if weird shit's happening to you out there, you're stupid. Aside from a random criminal that wants to do you serious bodily or life harm. Nobody, I've been in those situations, both in my cab and in a retail environment and walking down the street in New York City, walking out of a restaurant. I got mugged at gunpoint. So, if somebody's wants to do you real serious bodily harm, or kill you, you can never be prepared for that, or you can't be prepared enough. And, I will make a video on safety. But I also want to mention, that what I feel about if somebody commits a crime against you, Uber or Lyft are not going to take you seriously, as we're hearing in these rape cases, but they just kind of brush it off. It's because people don't have a police report. Okay, it's another story. Because we know riders will call up and make up stories to, get free rides and so on and so forth. It's never happened to me, as far as I know. But if somebody commits a crime against you, you need to file a police report. When you have a police report documenting that somebody committed a crime against you, that's when Uber and Lyft will take you seriously. All right, moving right along. So we discussed about communication. I also discussed this cancellation fee non-eligibility BS. These people, they don't know what's going on out there. They have not driven enough. None of them have been on the road as a driver enough to have a clue. I'm a driver. Maybe you're somebody that's watching. You're a driver. We know what the reality of what's going on out there is. Okay? No matter what Lyft or what Uber thinks about what's happening, is they do not know. Every situation is different. And I deserve better. And so does every other driver. Okay, so moving right along, it also came up about it got mentioned as an aside, that they're having problems with drivers at airports, at the airports. And a lot of drivers are getting deactivated for stuff going on at the airport. And I said, well, let me elaborate on that. I said, I've been in this business 30 years, okay? And there are certain things that are expected etiquette at the airport, no matter who you are, no matter what company you work for. And for starters, any offenses at the airport traditionally have been handled by termination of contracts, which is deactivation in the case of Uber and Lyft. If you get a speeding ticket in the airport previously to Uber and Lyft, adios. That is unacceptable. And if you were, let's say, to pick up on an unauthorized curb, a curb that you're not authorized to pick up at, then that is also grounds for termination. And I said, neither Uber or Lyft have any training on the airport. And that's important. I said, I see all sorts of stuff. And that's, wait a second. I don't know if that got in the way of my screen, but that was a notification from Dustin is driving. So anyway, I said there's no driver training for the airport. Okay, and of course the representative agreed with me. This is true. Because I see drivers do, basically what I see at the airport is drivers do not give a fuck about anything else but getting their passenger and getting out of there. They don't care how they affect traffic. They don't care that they cut off other drivers. They don't care that there's no order to how you pull up at the curb. They don't care about anything. They're tunnel vision. They're not quote unquote team players when they get to the airport. But you're not the only one out there. There's 50 drivers out there pulling up at that curb to get people. And you need to be aware what's going on. So anyway, the response to that was, yeah, he agreed there should be a training. And the reason there is not he said their corporate is actually in the middle of this discussion about training for the airport. And what he said is what the argument is training, having airport training would be telling drivers how to do their job that are independent contractors. I said no. I said, first of all, you can't say that in the same breath that you're telling us that we now have to do this safety test, okay? Because that's telling me how to do my job, okay? That is violating my rights as an independent contractor because, first of all, none of it applies to me whatsoever. And, he kind of shook his head at that. Of course, these customer service representatives are, at Lyft. I've always had really good experiences with Lyft customer service representatives, not always with Uber. I said, the thing about having airport training is you're not telling a driver how to do their job. The way to come across is to explain it exactly how it is. These are the airport rules. This doesn't come from Lyft. This is what the city of Phoenix requires. This is how the city of Phoenix expects drivers to behave in the airport. Period. End of discussion. It's as simple as that. So they have their priorities all twisted up in bullshit. And I can't really explain that, but you all know what I'm talking about. It's right if it's right for them, if it serves their purposes. It's not right if it doesn't serve their purposes. Um, so we talked about that. The Lyft representatives at the hubs actually, or at least Phoenix anyway, they actually have a weekly meeting where they provide feedback that they've gotten all week from drivers, just so that everybody knows that. So, in regard to my situation, they actually removed those 2 bad ratings as a courtesy for getting me all freaked out, thinking that what am I doing wrong? Why am I being harassed like this? Because that's what it feels like. It feels like harassment. And I have had this issue before with Lyft, where one day I'm like 90 minutes into my shift and they send me a text telling me that, I don't remember what it said, basically that they got a customer complaint on me. Yeah, I knew which customer it was and why, but that's besides the point. In the middle of my shift, unless it's a life and death emergency, or somebody calls up and says, you were in a hit and run, or you're in an accident right now, or you punched a passenger, or unless it has to do with a real safety issue or crime, they have no business contacting me on my shift and distracting me from focusing on being a safe driver and taking care of my passengers. And I feel really strongly about that, and you should too. But on the other hand, again, like I said, Lyft customer service people are always really awesome. I always leave there feeling better than when I walked in. And just to reiterate, I was really surprised when I went down there, because I pull up and they actually are in a building with a real mechanic shop. And I don't know how clear it will be on the previous video when the guy was explaining to me what they do there. But this is the little card brochure they gave me. I don't know if that's going to be backwards on the screen, but it's not that bad. You guys can figure it out. So they do oil changes, tire rotations, vehicle diagnostics, and other services. Basically, they do oil changes, tire rotation. They do inspections, for your yearly inspection for your account. And they do more intense diagnostic inspections for preventative maintenance purposes, to see if anything's wrong with your car. And that's pretty cool of them. And it also shows that, they're doing other things to generate revenue and be self-supportive, and maybe someday they'll pay the drivers better. Yeah, I was actually talking to this guy and was telling him what I used to make driving a taxi. Man, he was blown away by the difference in the rates.